YouTubers, Mike Martin's here. Mike Martin's channel. Again, I'd like to add another two articles here I want to read for you guys from the Vancouver housing crisis segment here on my channel. This one's from Money, the Money magazine. I actually subscribe to them. They have a decent magazine, talk about stocks and talk about futures markets and metals and stuff. And they came up with an article today that I want to share with you guys, and it's really good. How housing affordability is declining. One chart you really need to keep your eye on 2017. I'm going to leave a link below to this one because the chart is very informative. Okay, guys? For a third year in a row, Maclean's asked economists, investors, analysts, and financial commentators to submit what they think will be the important chart of Canadians should watch in the year ahead. And they delivered. In spades. Here is just one of many charts that help paint a picture of Canada's economy for the upcoming year. Larry McDonald picked this Bank of Canada Housing Affordability Index chart to show the likelihood of the housing market collapse based on historical data. See his insight below. So I'm going to leave a link for that so you see the chart. And it goes in quotations to say, the Bank of Canada's Housing Affordability Index remains the indicator to watch in 2017 because if Canadians can no longer afford to buy a house, it would dampen the residential construction and undermine the key prop holding up the economy. Not to mention the possibility even endangering the financial system through rising mortgage defaults. Very true, and I've been talking about this for years now. The index, which tracks the proportion of disposable income that a representative Canadian family spends on carrying a mortgage and utilities, has indeed trended upward in recent quarters, but it remains below its long-term average, suggesting that a downturn in the housing market is not imminent at the national level. Should the upward trend continue and approach the index's peak, reached in the early 1980s and 1990s, a tumble in the housing market would be a distinct risk given how house prices cratered after the peaks occurred. So basically what they're trying to say is, well, you know what they're trying to say. They're looking at a big crash just like happened 2 times back to back. Back in the 80s and 90s, and they're kind of forecasting this because it's long overdue. It's not if it will happen, the question is when will it happen. And it's out of control because what's happening is I think a lot of Canadians can afford to buy, but the problem is too a lot of Canadians are leaving. Because what I'm noticing is a lot of Canadians are leaving the major cities. And from there, they're leaving the secondary major cities, and they're moving into farm areas, like small, rural areas, right? So, let me know what you guys think about that, if that's true, because I'm feeling that. I know a lot of people, like, I focus, thank God for Facebook. I could actually, everybody makes fun of Facebook, calls it face crook and blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Take my information, you know what? And then one day, if I need to archive something or look back on something, or if there's an emergency and I need to prove I was somewhere at a certain time, hey, you know what? Look at my alibi. I'm here with people. I'm just joking. But, I mean, no. Everyone always looks at the negatives. But you know what? I'm following a lot of people that left the major cities to secondary cities, 20, 30 minutes out. Now they're hours away from the city. A lot of them are living a lot happier lives away from this. Because, like I told you, this is not the same Canada I grew up in. And let's go to the second article here. Loans for Vancouver down payment risk fueling Canada's debt binge. Why am I reading this? I've been following this story for a week now, week and a half, about the, you know what I'm saying, that money they're offering, basically for first-time home buyers that meet the requirements, right? You get a free aided money for your down payment, some aid, a band-aid. Now it says here and highlighted, first-time buyer loans may aid sellers, not purchasers. Program at odds with federal rules to tighten lending. A Canadian province has an unusual offer for first-time struggling to enter the world's hottest property markets a cheap loan to bulk up their down payment. It's a loan for a loan, so it's a loan to pay a loan, or it's a loan. It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. What's the catch? Anyways, it's a gift that may end up fueling Canada's debt binge and padding the pockets of sellers instead. Starting January 16, British Columbia, home to Vancouver, the nation's most expensive real estate market, will start a program to match nest egg savings by buyers for the first time. For the first house to buy, up to $37,500, or 5% of the purchase value. If there's no new supply, giving people more money just leads to higher prices, said Tsar Somerville, an economist focused on real estate at the University of British Columbia. Andy Yan, director of Simon Fraser University City Programming, said, "What does this $37,000 enticement do but encourage people to take on more debt?" Thank you. That's true. The unconventional step comes as policymakers scramble to respond to struggling home prices in Vancouver and Toronto that have turned Canada into one of the world's fastest appreciating real estate markets. Households have racked up a record of $2 trillion in debt amid rock-bottom borrowing costs, triggering concerns about the stability of the financial system. Yeah, you give away free money, guess what happens? At 0%, what's going to happen? People are going to go nuts. Ample support. Yes, just 2 weeks earlier, the head of Canadian Housing Agency warned against the wrong kind of help. I even read that article too. Ample support exists already for first-time buyers. Evan Siddell, president of Canada Mortgage Housing Corp., said in a speech in Vancouver, "Too much encouragement to buy homes exposed vulnerable people to excessive financial risk, pushes prices higher where the acute supply insistently exists, like here in Vancouver, and jeopardizes our economic prospects. Policy measures to cool the market have all addressed demand, not supply. That include a 15% tax on foreign buyers, BC stricter federal government mortgage rules, and plans to tax empty homes in Vancouver." Supply. Let's go into supply. Here we go, people. Supply, on the other hand, has stalled, failing to respond. The nearly 40% increase in Vancouver's prices earlier this year, the inventory of homes for sale of the lowest amount almost in a decade. And even if the price is typical single-family home, surged $1.5 million, about 20 times what the median household earns in a year. Now, facing election, this is a point that many people commented below. BC Premier Christy Clark, whose Liberal Party faces re-election in May, instead of a new program, doesn't encourage risk loan-taking, saying only those who meet the newly tightened federal mortgage rules will qualify. It will also be restricted to households earning up to $150,000 and purchasing a property that's worth $750,000 or less. There are those who can qualify for a mortgage but can't scrape together the down payment. She told the news conference on Thursday. Those are the ones who are trying to help. Some of the real estate experts are scratching their heads. She couldn't have talked about this with an economist, said Thomas Davidoff, head of the University of British Columbia's Center of Urban Economists of Real Estate. If a home buyer is willing to pay $500 large and is presented with an extra $30,000 of interest-free money, he'll just end up bidding $530,000, he said. Worse, those poor buyers will end up buying higher property taxes than they would have otherwise. That's so sad and you know what? It's like a bait. It's like a little bit of a bait there, a little bit of cheese for the mouse. And then there's people that are desperate for homes for their families to lay roots. And a lot of people are taking advantage of this and taking advantage of the Canadian people of our friendly way of doing things, it's really hard because a lot of people get trapped in that bait and trapped in the trap, and they end up upbidding, like he said, and then they end up defaulting and losing everything, and it's nothing worse than losing it all and having to start over. You know, it's really hard, but we'll see what happens. The 25-year loans will have no interest repayments for the first 5 years. After that, the government will charge interest at the Royal Bank of Canada's prime plus 50 basis points, and the rest every 5 years. Different directions. Lenders won't treat that government funding as equity because it's a loan, meaning that it won't reduce the burden of the buyer to save up, just less them to pay in the last 5 years. Somerville said. That's true. But the Bank of Canada said Thursday, before BC's announcements, that elevated levels of household debt, imbalances in housing market remain primary risk of the country's financial system. But that new rules, including mortgage tighten the introduced in October, will mitigate those dangers. You have the federal government wanting to cool down the market, making it harder for first-time buyers, said Somerville. Then you have the province coming in and saying, here's the first-time buyers. Here, have some more money. There are different things moving in different directions, he said. And he's very right and very true. Now, I want to ask you, you see what I'm saying? There's people that a lot of people, like myself, I don't want to buy a house because of a business investment. I have business. I have businesses, you know? And they're good ones. If you follow me on this, you'll know what I'm doing, and I'm doing well, you know? But what I'm trying to say to you guys is that people are factoring, they're not using the stock markets anymore. If they dump this $2 trillion in housing debt into the markets, our markets wouldn't be down so much. You know what I'm saying? Our markets would be actually booming right now. Canadian markets would be through the roof right now. And companies would be expanding and growing, and dividends would be splitting and cutting and paying out people. It would be a bear market across the board. But what I'm trying to say to you guys is, what do you guys think about this? You know, this is all a huge fiasco now with this free money. And I want to know what you guys feel about it, what you guys think. Because, you know, it's baiting and trapping innocent families that just want a house to lay roots for their family. It's gotten so bad here to lay roots for a family. You know, that, like I said, people are leaving the primary cities, and you know what a lot of people are saying? I have no business being here anymore. I could get a job at the Home Depot out in a small town. I don't need to work at Home Depot in Vancouver. For what? So I could live in the city of Vancouver just to say I live in Vancouver? Who cares? Like I said before, because I live in Vancouver, I could put that on my title like a badge. I live in Vancouver. Who cares? You live in Vancouver, so your neighbors hate you. You have no friends. You go to a bar to talk to some girls. They walk away from you. You live in Vancouver. That's what you're going to get when in Vancouver. Bad drivers. So adding I live in Vancouver to your name as a badge, I don't think that's a good... And a lot of people left. Like a guy I knew a guy that worked at the Home Depot cutting wood and stuff at the back, doing the heavy lifting and all wood cutting for people that had orders and stuff. And he moved out to a small town, like 100 Mile House area, way up north, where there's another Home Depot. And he's doing the same job. And now he actually owns his own place. And he says, I don't need to be attached to a city where it's antisocial. It is on record. It's on record. The most upset or most pissed off city in Canada. Unfriendliest city, you know. So why do you want to tag I live here when you're creating this desirability to say you live somewhere for the sake of saying you live somewhere? You know, just to make... It doesn't make... I don't know. Comment below if you understand what I'm trying to say. Let me know what you guys think. And that's my rant for the day. And thanks for watching, guys. Bye.